This is the Quarryman coach that you'll be building in the kit. This is available in 32mm only. It's supplied with 2 binny couplings and a 3-link chain. And it's also supplied with a double height pin type coupling and a different version of a 3-link chain. This will allow you to couple it at the right height to the slate wagons, and then by using the binny buffer or the top mounting, which I'll just twiddle with my finger, we're using that position there to allow you connection to your loco without an upward angle on the chain. Supplied with binny plastic wheels, brass, stainless steel or silver steel axles running in bull races. Thank you. This is the construction of the Quarryman's coach. We'll start off by constructing the bearing housings. You need to find the 8 parts that look like an old-fashioned clock and 4 bearings. Now these parts are all the same. They have a clean side and a dirty side. And it's important which way around we put these together. So take a holder, the clean side up, take a bearing, drop the bearing in from that side and push it until it pops right through, comes out the other side, as you can see. Then take another one, but this time turn it over so you're now seeing the dirty side, and offer it to the bearing and clip together. And then if you push it down onto the table, it lines everything up. So if you do that now with the other 3, and then I'll show you what to do next. Right, so you've clipped all those in. So the next job now is to actually glue in the bearings. We do this with the runny super glue. So turn each one over so you can see the flange side. What we're going to do is we're just going to run the super glue around that bottom area there. And do that for all 4. And put those to one side to dry, and while they're drying we'll move on to the next section. Now, while we're waiting for that to dry, the next job is to glue the floor onto the main structure of the floor. Now you need these 2 pieces. One's got 4 holes in it and it's got Underside written on it, and a 1mm piece with the engravings of the planks on. Now, it's important you get this the right way round. You don't put it that side, you put it on there so you can still see Underside on there. And that we have to glue into position so it fits all the way around. Now it's quite easy to do using a white PVA glue. You smear the glue, which I'll do in a moment, round, missing the holes. Then you offer the top piece on, and then if you tamp it down on that side, and then use your fingers to push in, because the lugs stick out either side. Then you can turn it over and do the other side, and again check the ends. You should be level as I've got there. So we'll go ahead and do that now. So using the white PVA glue, so There we go. Not too much is needed. It's important that you miss the square hole though. A few dollops down the middle. And then just spread that around a bit with your finger. And now we can offer this one onto it. And push down. And push down and make sure we're level at the ends. Just slide a little bit if you have to. Again, make sure we're level on the sides. And gentle pressure all over. One last check. It's looking okay. And we can actually see through the 4 holes there. So we now put that to one side to dry. Any glue that does come through on the edges, just clean off with a small knife blade. Right, while that's drying, we move on to the next stage. Right, the super glue is now dried on these 4 bearings. So we're now going to put the covers on. So we need to find the 4 covers as I've shown there, and a jig for putting it all together with. So what we do with this one is, I'll do a dry run first so you can see. I'll just zoom in on that. Put the other ones out of the way. Right, what I'm going to do is just going to put some white PVA glue, just a couple of dollops on that surface there. And we take the cover, we just drop it onto the glue. And then we take the jig, we pass it through, and we push them both down firmly into the jig and firmly in that direction. And just check that we've got the same ridge running all the way around, that it's central. And just hold that for a few seconds, and then you'll need a knife blade to remove the excess glue that is shown running along there. So we'll now do that. So just a little bit of glue. And drop it on, roughly in the right position, and offer it through the jig, push it down firmly and into each other, make sure it lines up, which it should do, and then remove the excess glue. I find it's best to use a screwdriver to do this. So that's nice and clean, because we need that to be clean when we come to glue it later on. And slide it out. Then remove the excess glue. From the sides. And put that aside to dry, and then we do exactly the same on the other 3. So if you go and do that when you come back, I'd have done mine as well. Right, that's my 4 done. So we put those to one side to dry before we move on to the next section. Right, for the next section, you'll need the base, which we did earlier on, 2 sides, and 4 seat cross braces. They're all identical, so you can see what I have in my hands if you'd like to find those. And this is what we do. Take your base and one side. Now it's important that the engravings face into each other. You'll find that slots in there quite nicely. And you do exactly the same with the other one. And then these are the cross braces that go underneath the seats. You'll see there's a little lug on one side and not on the other. The lug that's on one side goes into the hole in the base. So you can see what I'm going to do there. So that goes into the base. And then on the other side, there's a little square hole that it goes into. And you do that on the other one. So again, the little lug goes into the little hole on the bottom there. And the other side goes into the little square hole and just pokes through on the other side. You just put your finger up on those to hold those steady. And while that's in that position, we need to put a little bit of super glue just there, just there, just there, and just there, where the cross piece mounts with the base. Don't let it run across, otherwise you'll end up gluing the side in. And we don't want to do that at the moment. So taking your super glue, just a small drop is needed. Then a small drop on the other side. And then hold the sides roughly at 90 degrees. And allow that glue to go off. Just need a bit more super glue. And then turn it upside down. And you can see the two square holes where the cross pieces poke through. And just put a little bit of super glue into each of those holes. That'll wick down quite nicely. Then use a tissue to remove the excess. And we repeat that now on the next pair, which are further along. So again, we do the same. The little lug goes into the floor, and the square section goes into the square hole on the other side. And we do exactly the same with this piece. Into the square hole, and into the square hole on the other side. Again, while holding it firmly, we do the same as we did before with the super glue. Just where it touches the floor. And on the other side. And then turn it upside down. And again, we got the 2 holes where it pokes through. A bit of glue into each of those holes. And take a tissue to wipe the excess off. And gently put that down and leave that for a couple of minutes for the super glue to go off. Right, now we can move on to the next section, which is going to fit one of the back pieces, the seat you sit on and the back cushion. So you'll need the part that we've been playing with up to now, one seat, one backrest seat and one end panel. Now it's important we do this in the correct order, so while still holding it together, the actual seat that's sat on can obviously go either way round, but there's only one way is the correct way, and that is with the big lug, big gap facing forwards. And that goes into those 2 holes there and the 2 holes on the other side. And just squeeze gently and hold that together. If you put it the other way round, you'll find that it protrudes out the back too far. It's more or less touching the curve and lines up with the slot there. We then take a backrest, and again that has 2 ways of going in. You've got a long bit and a short bit. The long bit goes down and that goes into that hole there and that hole there. And that makes the backrest. So I'm still holding it together. Then take the back piece with the lines facing in, and you'll find all the lugs line up quite nicely. To jiggle it a little bit and then it goes in. So you can then hold it firmly there and push the back piece in. And if you change hands over, so you're pushing in with your finger and gripping tight, what we now have to do is to super glue this in position, but we don't want to put the glue on this side. So while holding it like this, we need to put a little spot of super glue in this position and a little piece there, and then wipe off with a tissue, which is what I'll do. Well, I seem to have some tissue on the end of my screwdriver, which I'll just remove. So I'll just put that down a moment. That's better. Right, so finger on, pushing forward and squeezing tight. So just a little bit of super glue, and that'll run into that joint. Do the same on the other side. And then move your finger and thumbs down a little bit so you can get access to the next lugs. Which is that one there. And where the seat comes through. And do that on the other side. Right, now's a good idea to take some tissue, have a chance to soak in, and just wipe the excess off. This side will be covered by 1mm veneer, so we're not too fussy about the finish, but we don't want any lumps and bumps. Right, now we need to move further down, so move your thumbs, keep your finger on the back, move your thumbs along. We're now going to glue those 2 there, and the last back one there. Again, take the tissue, wipe the excess off, and we go to the other side. And we do exactly the same. Wipe the excess off. And last is the 4 lugs that sit through the back. Again, get rid of the excess. And that's done that end. Right, so now we can go down and do the other end exactly the same. So I'll just run through it quickly. Squeeze, put the seat in, round the right way, with the long edge there, facing forwards. So drop them into those 2 lugs, into those 2 lugs. Put the seat on again with the long bit facing down, into there and into there. Offer up the rear section, which will engage with all the lugs. And again, pushing in and squeezing with your fingers, we then go ahead and glue up all those same joints as we did that end. So I'll go ahead and do that. When you come back, we'll move on to the next bit. Right, so I've done my end, both ends now. Don't be tempted to put any glue in those corners, because we have to fit a false, or not fit, we have to fit a bottom onto there. And if you put super glue into those corners, then it won't allow the underneath to flick on properly. Right, so the next stage now is to fit the centre seats and the centre backrest. It's quite flexible, as you can see. We can move it apart. So take the first centre seat, planks facing up, engage in the holes on that side, and then slowly push him down and you drop in. And then while keeping a bit of pressure on each side, we put the backrest in. Again, it will only go in one way with the big notch facing down. Again, engage one side, slowly bring it along, and it will drop in. So again, while holding that firmly, we do the same trick again of going through the notches where it sticks through. We can actually put some super glue where the cross brace comes through as well, which is underneath the seat. And one up on top where the backrest comes through. Clean off the excess. And then repeat that for the other side. Now we can move on to the final one. So again, centre seat and centre backrest. Load him in, gently push down, and you clip in. Hold it between your thumb and fingers, hold it fairly tightly, and we do the same now with the top one, or the backrest, and that's gone in. So again, a little bit of pressure. Need a bit more glue. Again, we do exactly the same. Remove the excess. Turn over and do the other side. Remove the excess. And now we can finish off by gluing up the lugs that come through there. A little bit of pressure. And we turn over. And we now do exactly the same on this side. Right, so put that to one side to dry for a few minutes, and we'll move on to the next section. Right, next bit to do is to start to put the overlays on. So if you find the 4 corner or end overlays, as I've got there, and they simply locate in those positions there and on the other side. Fairly straightforward to fit. Put some PVA glue onto that surface there. I'll show you in a minute. Drop him on, and then hold him with your thumb there, thumb and finger top and bottom to get it flush. And then if you push down and push the part down, so you get a flat surface, flush surface there. So that's push down, and then squeeze between your thumb and finger so it's flush at the top, and it'll also be flush at the bottom. So again, a double check. So we'll do that now with the PVA glue. Not much is needed. Just a bit to hold it in location. Oh, sorry camera, are you still working? Sort of, okay. Right. So with your finger, spread it around a little bit. Stops it oozing out. So offer up your corner. Squeeze with your finger down on the board, push it down and push the piece down as well so it's flush on the back and flush on top. You can still move it around and give it a good squeeze. That's that side done. We do exactly the same with the other piece up on this one. So I'll just do that one so you can see. So again, squeeze with your thumb and finger and then push it down onto your base so it's level at the back and level at the top there. So we can now move up to the other end. So I'll go ahead and do the other two at the other end, and if you'd like to do those two, if you'd like to come back, they'll be done. Right, so I've done my ends. So we now have to fit the middle sections, which are these. You need to find 4 of these. And they simply glue into position there. Again, take you through a dummy run first. Put some glue on that surface, drop him on roughly in the right position. Put your thumb and finger each end, that positions it there. Run your finger along the top, and keeping it together, lay it down and push down on both parts. At the same time, keep your thumb and finger on the sides. Keep doing it, and you'll find that it lines up all the way around. So I'll go ahead and do that. Again, spread the glue around with your finger. Drop him on. Get him roughly in the right position. And then down onto the flat surface and push them both down. And your finger and thumb down the sides while keeping pressure on. Then bring him up and have a quick check around, so we can still move it if we have to. Remove any excess glue that's showing through. And that one's quite successful. So we'll do the next one again to it. Dummy run first, make sure everything's going to fit all right. Yep, so put some more glue on. Again, move it around with your finger. Drop on the cover. Get it roughly right. Onto the flat surface, push them both down. Again, use your finger and thumb on the sides and keeping pressure on it. Again, remove excess glue. Right, we can now do the two on the other side. So I'll go ahead and do that. And when you come back, I've done my side. Right, so I've now done sides, both sides. The next thing now to do is to fit the overlay onto the end. I'll just make sure that that's in focus and you can see it. Yep. Again, this is very easy to do. Do a dummy run first. Does it fit? Yes, sides fit, top. So we put some glue on, drop him on, and then lay it down upside down, and then finger and thumb either side, and push the whole thing down until it's level at the top, and level at the sides, level at the bottom, and you should be able to see right through the hole. So we'll go ahead and do that. Try to miss the hole. That's where the buffer comes through. Lay him on, fingers either side, get him roughly in the right position, and down onto the flat surface, push down and push down with the overlay. And fingers either side to make sure it's equal. Still manoeuvre it a little bit. So you want the same each side with a nice flush and flush on top. So we can now do that on the other end. Again, we'll do a dummy run to make sure it will fit all right. Yep, that one's going to fit. No reason why it shouldn't. drop him on. About right. And then onto a flat surface again. And squeeze with your fingers either side. And push down. And knock the camera again. Sure it's the same both sides. Nice and flush on top. Remove excess glue and make sure you can see through the hole. So again, we leave that now for 4 to 5 minutes for the glue to dry. Right, so we turn it upside down. And we're now going to fit the underside, which adds a bit more strength to it and gives you the location for mounting the wheels. It can go either way, but it's important it goes this way up so you can see the engraved lines. We'll do a check first that it fits. So that literally drops into there. There's a flush surface all the way around. So we want to put the glue on this part. So if we put it on there, when we put it on, it'll start to come up through the holes where we don't want it. So we take this piece, turn it over, and this is where we want to put the glue. Again, try and miss the holes. Otherwise it makes it more difficult to fit other parts later on. That should be sufficient. And then just generally blend it in a bit with your fingers. Work fairly quickly. It's quite warm here under this light. Right, ready to drop that in. And then pushing down all the way around. Any glue that is showing, just remove it. Knife blade or a screwdriver. That's gone quite nicely. So next we have to add the chassis legs. And chassis legs are these very tiny finicky things. And they've got a little piece sticking down. And they've got a line scribed on them as well, which you can see. And that line should line up with those lines. And they go into those holes there. So I will show you how. How can I do this? A slight angle. So that one goes into there. Then you add another one. So you can see the actual line. So that you see the line on there, we should have put it that way round. So the inner one goes in so you can actually see the engraved line. And then you put the other one in so you can see the engraved line facing out. And that slots in by the side of it. Like that. So they have to be glued in position. So we will do that next. So you can take them both out again. And for this we use again the white PVA glue. We just want to put some into the hole it's going to go into. And get some on each of the edges. So as we said, the first one goes in with the lines facing in, and the next one goes in with the lines facing out. And push that down firmly. Any excess glue, just move out the way. And then we do that on the other side, exactly the same. Do a run to make sure it fits. So we have the lines this time facing inside, and the lines on this one facing outside. That fits into there. It's quite a snug fit. Again, we do the same with the glues. Get it on both sides. I'm doing this left-handed at the moment, which isn't very clever. Right, that's better. So we take the first one, lines facing in. Second one, lines facing out. Those lines are used in a moment to actually locate and line up the undercarriage, or the wheel should I say. Right, again, remove any excess. Quite a bit there. Right, so the next part to put on are the wheels themselves. Now, I'll just show you how one of the axle boxes fits first of all. See that when we were, probably see it now, there's a slot that's cut in there and there. And what happens is that that drops down into the slot, as you can see, and locates it firmly in position. There's a little bit of movement there, and then it should line up with the lines. But before we do that, we have to do a little bit more work on these. Now, if you remember, when we put these together, we didn't actually glue the two together. So that's the job we now have to do. So with a small knife, just separate them. Quite easy to do. Right, you'll need the jig again. So now what we're going to do is actually glue those two halves together and then put it back in the jig, so that what we don't want them to do is to be glued like that. So the first thing we do is add just a touch of glue on the one that doesn't have the bearing in. Doesn't need to be that much. So I take some off. And you take the one with the bearing, drop it in, and then into the jig, and push both down firmly, and wipe off the excess glue along the bottom, and squeeze them together at the same time. So that's a push down and squeeze. And remove from the jig, remove any surplus glue that's oozing out from the joint. And if you'd like to do that with the other three, and when you come back, I'd have done it as well. Right, so now's a good idea to oil them. I've glued all my back pieces on, so just a very small amount of 3-in-1 oil just into the groove where the balls are, hardly any at all needed. Then with the tissue, wipe off the excess, and we're now ready to mount the wheels and bearings onto the chassis. So we'll do a dummy run first of all. So locate one wheel in, and the other side. Hold it with your finger and thumb. We'll do a dummy run first. So he goes in there. That one goes in there. Push them down. And that's exactly how it goes when we glue them in. There's two ways of gluing these in. You can either use the white PVA glue and spread it on those surfaces there and load it in, or you can put your glue on there and down in there, there and down in there. I prefer to do it on the wheel itself, so that's what I'll do. Doesn't need too much. And then just spread it around. There's probably a bit too much on there. It's about right. And we load in one side, and then we load in the other side, and push it down into the slot, and push down from each side. And there is some movement, you can move it in and out. So push down firmly, and there should be just a little bit of movement on the axle. Obviously it rotates, so a little bit of movement. Now we need to go in and remove the excess glue. I found the best way to do this is with the screwdriver. So I just clean up the end of my screwdriver. A little bit showing there and there. Maybe easier to do it with a knife blade, I don't know. Let's try a knife blade. Yeah, that's better. And we do the same on the other side. As I said before, it dries clear, so it's not too important if there's some left on there. I've got some on the wheel. I'll just take that off. Lucky child, aren't I? Right, okay. Right on the other side. So we then do exactly the same with that, with the other set of wheels. So again, we'll do a dummy run, fit, fit, slot it in, and we slot it in. So that's going to go okay. So this time what I'll do is I'll put the glue on the actual frame itself. So that's the other way of doing it. Squeeze some out. Doesn't want too much. Some along the edge there that I get pushed down in. Take your wheels. Now we do exactly the same as we did before. Load it in into the slot. Do the same on this side. Push them both down firmly. Make sure you've got a little bit of play in the axle. And we do exactly the same again, remove any excess glue. And leave that turned upside down for 5 to 10 minutes for the glue to set. So when that's done, come back to me and we'll move on to the next section. Right, the next parts are up to you whether you fit them or not. If you choose not to, then skip this video and move on to the section where I show fitting the couplings. So we have 4 angle pieces, which on the actual real one to my knowledge are iron brackets that hold the corners together, and they go on like that. They're a bit finicky to fit because we have to super glue them in position. So it's up to you whether you fit them or not. They're 3D printed, they're quite fragile, but you may have to clean up the edges a little bit. Although that one's okay. That one's okay. You have to just rub your fingernail along the inside just to remove a bit of the flashing. As I say, it's up to you whether you fit these or not. So that one's right. That one's okay. That one wants a bit of a clean up with a knife. It's 3. That's 4, so that's the corners. It's also the handbrake. The location where the handbrake goes onto, and the keeper which holds the top of the handbrake in. Again, that wants maybe a bit of a clean up underneath. Right, so first of all, wants a bit of a clean up on this surface as well. If I had a decent knife blade, right, there we go. Right. So let's deal with the handbrake first of all. So put the corner pieces to one side. Doesn't matter which side you choose. Take a little corner piece there, and if you just dig your knife into it, what we're going to do is we're going to glue that. If you take the center line there, we're going to glue it literally so it lines up there like that. So that's how it's going to go. So for that, I would probably use some super glue. So I put some super glue across the top. It drops off. So I'll try and pick that up a bit better. And then we offer it up. I'll sort of line it up. Probably better if I do it with my fingers actually than a knife. Until it's flush with the outside. So that's okay. Add a little bit more super glue to the inside just to give it some strength. There we go. That's okay. So we then add the handle. Now if you have the handle, it's got a little notch that sticks out. So that goes where the hole is, like that. And then if you line up the top, with the second plank in, and that's where we're going to glue it into position. So again, using some super glue, some around the notch, and then a little bit just there, just where the second plank is. So we put him on the circle at the bottom, and pushing down at the top. And then we put the keeper for the handbrake, as I call it. And that goes approximately there, like that. So again, we have to super glue that in position. You only get one chance at this. So it's one little bit of glue on there, and one on there. And you line up the rivet more or less with one of the planks and push down. Make sure it's in line, and we push down at the other end. And hopefully you haven't super glued your fingers in. So that's the lever done. So now we move on to doing the corner braces, which, as I said, is up to you whether you fit them or not. I'm going to go ahead and do it. So they need to go into position there. So the first thing is to do the back one and get him halfway, so you've got the same amount of gap either side. We then have to get some super glue up underneath there. So you lift it up with your finger, bit of super glue underneath, drop it back down again and push down with your finger. While keeping some pressure in that direction so it's nicely into the corner. Alright, so while we're in this position, we can do the one on the other side. So we do exactly the same sequence. Line him up where he's going to go. Some super glue. Lift him up. Some glue underneath. And push him back down again. Turn him over, and we do now the same on the sides. Or again, keep some pressure on there, lift them, bit of super glue underneath, and then make sure it lines up with the top there, so you've got a small gap running all the way along, and gently pushing down. And while I've been doing that, the other one's fallen off. So obviously I didn't put enough glue on there, did I? So I'll do that one again. Right, now we do the same with this one on this end. He looks pretty nicely lined up already. Gonna glue underneath and push him down. And that one's in position. And then we do the same for the pair at the other end, which I'll go ahead and do now. And when you come back, I'd have done that. Right, so I've done my ends now. So it's done on both ends. We now have to fit the covers over the axle boxes. So you need to find the 4 last items. So these little tiny circles with circles engraved on them. I'll show you where those go. Just get myself a knife blade again. They go literally over there. And again, we do that with some PVA glue. So I'll just get a sharp knife a moment. Hardly any glue is needed. Again, just a small spot. You can use a sort of cocktail stick for this. That's all that's needed. And then just position the cover over. And you can move it around, make sure you can't see the engraved line on the other side. And I'll just show you doing that on the next one, and then you can do the 2 yourself. Just it's almost a witness of glue. Right, so if you'd like to go ahead and do those and the other side, when you come back to me, and I've done that as well. Right, so that's it now finished. So we now have the buffers to fit. Now it comes with 2 types of buffers, a standard binny buffer, and it comes with a 2 height buffer. I do supply 2 types of chain. There's a standard oval 3 link, which is quite long, which is fine for the normal wagons using the binny buffers. So when you connect up those, if I get it around the right way, then the gap's about right. But when you're running with the slate wagons, that's too long. So I do supply a small chain, which admittedly is not oval, but it does allow a much shorter distance between the 2 wagons, or the 2 slate wagons, or between this and a slate wagon. This is the chain which I supply with the slate wagon. On the metal chain, you may have to very slightly with a pair of pliers where the join is between the chain. using serrated pliers. Just put it in there and just give it a gentle squeeze, hardly anything, just to do a slight ovalness. That allows it then to fit into this buffer a lot easier. So that's now a nice fit in there. Otherwise it's a little bit tight. But the other end, which goes on a standard hook on the slate wagon, is not a problem. So it's just when you're coupling up to these. And if you're going to use the standard 3-link one, which is not a problem, that will go in there and doesn't need any modification whatsoever. Choice is yours. Now the reasons for that are that if you fit the binny buffer, then that's fine. That's the right height to couple up to your locos. That's not a problem. But if you connect to a slate wagon, the slate wagon has a much lower coupling. So you then need to fit these instead. And by fitting these, just undo one nut so you can see. And the washer. This has the top hook, which is the same height as the binny hook, but it also gives you the facility of pulling the pin. I'll show you on this one actually, it's much easier. So you can pull the pin, and then you can add your chain, reinsert the pin, doesn't want to go, there we go. And that then gives you the ability to couple up to the other wagons themselves, which are the slate wagons. So you can use this wagon as, or the Quarryman's wagon, as an adapter. So you fit one of these at one end to couple up to the slate wagons, and then at the other end you can either use one of these still the same and use the top hook to line up to your engine, or you can quite simply fit the binny. If you're not using the slate wagons, then you can fit the binny type buffers at either end. The choice is yours. Very straightforward to fit. Simple nut and bolt on the inside. There we go, that's it completed. I hope you've enjoyed building it, and please enjoy it.